So announcements, fun things coming up. So next month in June 13th, we're going to be back in the Garden and Arts Center. Let me share my page. Okay, hang on. Sorry about this. I had it all worked out and then
it's June 12th.
I moved it. June 12th.
June 12th.
I'm sorry.
Saturday.
Share. So we are going to be doing a fun welcome back meeting. Our own Tom Nichols is going to be speaking, and he has a fascinating story, and he's a great speaker. I've heard him speak before, and so you're definitely not going to want to miss it. He's going to be speaking about espionage and talking about his books. We are going to, we're going to have some refreshments. We're going to have door prizes. It's going to be a really great time. So please join us if you're able. We're going to record it so you can see it after if you're not able to make it. But we would love to have you there in person if you feel like that's a safe thing to do. And then KJ is going to tell us a little bit about Lubbock Book Festival.
Yes, and Kim, are we starting at 9?
Oh yes, I'm sorry. We are starting at 9. I'm trying to unshare my screen.
It's at the Garden Arts Center, and so we're meeting at 9 to kind of it's like a welcome back, get to know each other a little bit. We've been apart through the pandemic. We had a great kickoff, and then the pandemic happened. So it's kind of a way to reunite, get some new folks back in. We'll be promoting it widely to get some people that maybe we saw at the kickoff, or maybe that are new writers or just interested in our group. So bring a friend. It's totally free. We just hope to have, some fun and a way to get to know each other. And then Tom used to be the police chief in Tucson, Arizona, and then also here in Lubbock. And then he did the LISD police chief. So he's got great experience. His books he's got a series of espionage books. He also has a series of border war, Mexican crime cartel. So he's got great experience and lots of good things to talk about. So be interesting. I wanted to update you all. For a while ago, we had started talking with the Mahon Library about doing a book festival. Barbara had done a Lubbock Book Festival, what was it, 3 or 4 years ago, Barbara?
I think it was 2017 when Kay and I approached the Mahon Library, who weren't, they weren't quite in that mind space at the time. And we ended up working with Luca to do the book festival right here.
So we're re-emerging and having another Lubbock Book Festival, but this time it is through Mahon. They have a new director.
Yes.
She's wonderful. So we're working with them. We may pull Luca into it right now, but we're just at kind of the early stages. But we do have a date. I wanted to tell you all. It's September 25th and 26th. It will be at the Mahon Library. Authors will be able to sell their books at a table, and we will have a lot more details. Like I said, we're in the very beginning stages, but it's also at the same time as their Friends of the Library sale, which brings in a lot of people from all around.
That's cool.
We're also the benefits, where all the proceeds are going to Literacy of Lubbock, which is an important organization, nonprofit here in Lubbock. And they're also on the board. So I'm on the board, and then the library and Literacy of Lubbock. So we have an inside scoop here. We're really excited because we're trying to make it author centric, but they will have panels all throughout the 2 days that they're doing, where there are going to be talks. The audience is not necessarily writers, it's readers. So it'll be geared towards the public. And we're pulling together some panels and some other things like that. So we don't have a lot of details yet, but stay tuned. I'm going to meet with them on Monday again, and hopefully be able to get them to present to our group sometime this summer, where we can maybe even have sign-ups. But we haven't had that conversation yet. So don't tell them I said that. I'm going to surprise them tomorrow on Monday. But I'm really excited. This is a great opportunity for our local authors, and hopefully we're going to try to throw in 1 or 2 panels that will be for people who want to write. So that we hope to be able to do that. But most of the panels will be for the readers. So that's bringing people to the library to purchase your book. So stay tuned.
It's going to be very fun, very exciting. All right. Are there any other announcements? I'm going to tell you. I'm sorry, KJ, did you have something?
I was just going to say, usually do the successes. So if you want to ask people if they've had any success.
I'm going to share my screen because this meeting is brought to you by a very fabulous, successful, beautiful, a little bit obnoxious Kim Hunt Harris, who is releasing her new book this Friday, May 14th. It is only 99 cents for pre-order. And so I am sponsoring this meeting. This is something that you can do also. We have sponsorships open for our, for $12 a month, you can sponsor the meeting and you can have a little toot your own horn thing up here. So it's getting ready to change the screen. So I was going to tell you also, I have my, to prepare the way for the book release, I've got my 3-book box set free for 2 more days. So if you've ever been interested in reading any of my books, this is a perfect time to get a bunch of them for a little bit of money. They're all set here in Lubbock. They're very, very funny. They're cozy mysteries. They're a good time and hilarious and heartwarming. That's my tagline. That's my elevator pitch. So
pardon my knowing. So where are they available?
They are available on Amazon.
Okay, thank you.
So thank you. I had one more thing I was going to show you. If you are interested in sponsoring a meeting sometime, just go to our website. Click on capwriters.com. Click on sponsorships here and fill in the information. It's only, like I said, it's only $12 for the month. And what we're doing there is that's our monthly Zoom fee. So we're just trying to recoup the cost of that. And you get a chance to get a little extra attention there. So with that said, let's talk about celebrations. Let's close with some good news. Who has good news to share?
Barbara does. You've got your book out.
Well, let's see. Where did I put it? After I showed
Put it up there again.
Oh, okay. And my lighting is terrible here. In this corner. I don't know if you can see. There we go. There we go. So, it's always a great feeling to hold a real book in your hand, and especially a jacketed hardcover edition. So that was a lot of fun. I've spent the last few weeks just doing a few promos. The Wolf Hunt is published by 5 Star, which is a publisher that specializes in the Western literature market for libraries. So they come out with library edition first, and then later focus on general sales and bookstore sales. And so I'm not doing much in the way of promo right now, but in September, I've got a promotion lined up with Lone Star Literary Life to do some giveaways on their online promotion and blog tours and things like that.
Cool.
So that'll be a lot of fun. And I'm about a third of the way into the next book in the series. So
cool.
Thank you all for your encouragement last fall.
Yay.
So is it also going to be a kind of a takeoff on a Sherlock book, or do you want to?
I envision that if this one, has any reception at all, that I'll just go ahead and follow this fun path for 2 more books.
Yeah.
Good.
And what Jonathan Baker was telling us is really true. This was an unagented book, but my editor, certainly counts on there being a follow-up. It's not the first book they're going to make money on. It's on those authors whose name becomes a brand or whose series become a brand. And so I decided this isn't terribly hard for me to do in a little spare time. Just go with it.
Yeah.
Good.
Excellent. Well,
Also, Barbara, let me do something you didn't do. That book is not labeled as being written by Barbara Brannon. So.
That's right. This is a pseudonymous work, and I hope it'll sell the better for it, or get checked out in libraries the better for having a male pseudonym.
Yeah.
So let us know what the name is there.
Oh yeah, so we can.
Oh, here we go. Here we go. Will Brandon. So you can.
Will Brandon. That is a very authorly name.
Well, I hope so. We shall see.
All right. Who else is celebrating? Well, I am.
We'll look forward
I'm
to
celebrating enough for all of us.
Yes, we'll look forward to May 14th. Let me add something else, Kim. I just finished editing recently a book that you all may find worth acquiring when it comes out in a few weeks. It's a writer's guide titled 7 Million Words by a Western writer many of you may have come across, Mike Cox, who was a newspaperman in Texas for a long while, then worked for Texas Parks and Wildlife and TxDOT on the PR side. He's got a lot of practical advice for the writer's craft, and he'll be self-publishing that guide, and I'll be glad to share details whenever it's published soon. But I edited the manuscript for him and agreed with 99.9% of his advice, which is rare for me.
Great.
That's excellent. Definitely keep us informed.
Will do.
So we can get that whenever it becomes available. Speaking of keeping us informed, so today is also Saturday, obviously, and so that is the day that we on our copywriters Facebook page share anything that you want to share, promote anything. It's a day that we encourage self-promotion. So be sure and go to your social media channel and share your news and books. Anything you want to share your books and or art lunches or anything on our social media. All right.
Around and everybody just tell me, I guess, your name and are you all from Lubbock or?
No, we have not all of us.
Tell me where you are or where you're from, and then just in a very brief 1 or 2 sentence synopsis, let me know what you're currently working on, because I'd love to hear it.
Great.
I can go first. Or KJ, do you want to go first?
Kim, you go first.
Okay, so my name is Kim Hunt Harris. I do live here in Lubbock, and I write a series of Christian cozy mysteries that are set here in Lubbock. And where I am is actually I'm releasing my 5th book in the series next week. So,
yay!
Yeah.
I'll go next. I'm KJ Waters, and I live here in Lubbock, and I'm writing sci-fi, more of like a time travel historical fiction type. I'm about to release my 3rd book in September.
Cool.
And I'm Jan Lloyd. I'm here in Lubbock, and I just do sci-fi for about 12-year-old kids.
Oh, cool. Deborah, let's hear from you.
I'm in Las Cruces, New Mexico. I'm a retired graphic artist. I've worked with Jan at Clovis Community College for many years, and I'm writing a book called Return of the Dragon Masters.
Cool. How about you, Mathis?
I am Mathis Rogers, Mathis B. Rogers, and I write gay romance that goes all the way. And I'm currently working on my 43rd book that's supposed to be released on July the 2nd. If I don't hurry up and get it done, I'm going to be in trouble. And it's called Hot Rod Magazine, with a dash between the hot and the rod, and use your imagination to what that means.
Yeah, well, it's much better than gay romance that only goes a third of the way.
Really?
I feel let down.
And that's why you're a comedian.
Barbara?
Good morning, Jonathan, and good morning, KJ, and all of the Caprock writers. It's good to see you on Zoom. And I have something really cool to show you.
Yes. Can't wait to read that.
The novel, the Western historical pastiche of Sherlock Holmes that I talked about in one of our fall meetings was published a few weeks ago. And so to my amazement, even after the delays of publishing in the COVID, on the COVID world in publishing, it did come out exactly 6 months rescheduled from what the publisher said, with no other complications. So I'm pleased about that. But my name's Barbara Brannon. Typically, I write nonfiction. History. I'm an editor of nonfiction as well. And along with my co-author, Kay Ellington, we've published a series of women's contemporary fiction called The Paragraph Ranch, for which the 3rd volume is forthcoming. So it's good to see familiar faces and meet new folks.
We're glad to have you.
She lives in Spur, right, Barbara?
Oh, hi, Kim.
Oh, you live in Spur.
Yeah.
Yes, Spur, Texas. So
I know Spur,
70 miles away from where we founded Caprock Writers a few years
back. Lance, how about you?
Hi, my name's Lance. I actually predominantly do comic books. I have about a dozen comics out there in the world. I've done a couple of kids' books, have another one coming out this Christmas, and I'm actually in the middle of retooling a novel to work with Amazon's new Vela program, or whatever it is. I'm just outside of Lubbock. Y'all got to bear with me. I'm the Night Nerd is like my podcast name, so this is super early for me. Like 3 hours to go, so
yeah,
you made it.
I wanted to be here and see everybody.
If I wasn't on the East Coast, I would struggle. 10 a.m. is early for me too. I'm a writer. I mean, I'm a creative type, so I'm up late watching old movies. So I have some other folks who are sort of hanging back and they don't have their cameras on. Y'all are welcome to pop in and say who you are. Hello.
Fallon.
Sure. Hi, my name is Fallon. Sorry, I just got back from the gym, so I don't feel very presentable. I write.
No, you look great.
Thanks. I write middle grade fantasy.
Very cool. Does anyone else want to pop in and introduce themselves?
Well, I'm Dan Duane, and my camera is on the blink, so I cannot turn it on. So therefore, I am here on audio only. But I've just released my 4th novel. This is the first in a series of apocalyptic stories about 3 young men that are thrown into a war between the fallen angels and the favored angels. And there's she has my book cover. Yes, there you go.
There's your pretty cover.
And I'm a graphic artist. I used to teach art for 24 years and was the art director for a couple of television stations, and I do my own covers. So,
yeah, that's a great cover. It's very eye-catching.
It is.
Agree.
And Carol?
I'm Carol Kerr, and I am in Rapid City, South Dakota. If you're wondering what I'm doing with these wonderful Texas women, I am a native Texan. I'm just out of state right now. I write romance, and I'm about to finish the first draft of my 9th book that I hope to have out by Christmas, because it has a Christmas tone to it.
Yay, congratulations.
Glad you're
Thank
here.
I've met you before, haven't I, Carol?
You may have, and my phone is on safe driving mode. I don't know why.
Okay.
So that's why you can't see me. And I'm standing in my kitchen.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, well, there you go.
Safe driving there.
Right? Well, I love having romance people. I grew up around romance writers. My aunt, as y'all may know, is Jodie Thomas. And so I grew up.
I might have heard of her.
I grew up going to romance conferences where often I was the only man in the room, or my Uncle Tom and I would be. I just love romance writers and readers, and I used to proofread and copy edit romance novels for HarperCollins as a side gig when I worked in publishing, which often led to some fun conversations on the bus into New York City, because I would be, editing some pretty lurid scenes, and the person on the bus next to me would be like, "What are you doing?" So anyway, but it's nice to meet all of you. My name is Jonathan Baker. I am originally from Canyon, Texas. I live in Portland, Maine now. I am a former publishing worker. I was the assistant to the editor-in-chief at W.W. Norton and Company, a storied old publishing company that's won many prizes. When I was there, we won a Pulitzer, and books I directly worked on were shortlisted for the Man Booker Prize and the National Book Award. I have also interned at a couple of agencies, Writer's House and Brown and Miller in Chicago, both very good agencies. In fact, Writer's House is just killing it these days. When I look on Publishers Marketplace, they often the most visited pages. Last week, I looked in 4 of the top 5 most visited pages were Writer's House agents. So with that said, these days I'm a writer and editor. I'm kind of a jack of all trades writer. I write, I'm a journalist. I also write copy for various, companies and magazines, Esquire, Men's Journal, Men's Health, Road and Track, Car and Driver, Popular Mechanics. And I write novels. I've written a few, though I was learning, and I didn't try to put them out into the world until this most recent one. I'm kind of in the same boat as some of you may be, where I sent this latest book to my agent, and she replied by saying, after the pandemic, I am transitioning out of the industry. So basically, you'll have to find yourself another agent. She was cordial about it, but I am in the process of querying agents, just like some of you may be. But I've had some success. I've queried 3 agents, and I've had 2 full manuscript requests. You may wonder why I've only queried 3 agents, and we can talk about that. And it's because I believe in a sort of slow rollout rather than a en masse querying process, because you get feedback, often, and you can update your query letter, or you can update your manuscript and then send it back out. But that's very hard to do if you've sent, if you've queried 50 agents, so it's a learning process like everything else, and a query letter should be seen as a living document that you can update at all times. I thought that a good way to do that would be to talk about, I can't really talk too much about self-publishing because I never really worked in the self-publishing world. And I think that I have personal friends in West Texas who would be better at talking about this than I would. So it's better for me to talk about the traditional publishing route. So for those of you who aren't interested in getting an agent and really just want to self-publish, this will just be like fun, sort of industry informative stuff. But for some of this is vital information. I've been on the inside. I was the person who sent those rejection letters that you get, those form rejections. I used to send out a couple hundred a day from Writer's House, so just crushing dreams, day after day, and it was hard, but it was because because you just have to grow a thick skin. You can't like sort of weep every time you hit send, you know, like after about 20 of them, you're like, well, this is the gig, you know? And so I guess the first bit of good news is, so you hear stories like that all the time about like how many people are rejected. And it's true, and publishing is a business. And so you can't take that personally. It's not personal. It's just, you know, often we, in the publishing industry, you know, we didn't even read all of the queries because we don't have time. Like every time I arrived in the morning, there would be 300 new queries there for me, you know, and yeah, 300 a day, crazy, you know. And but the reason that I didn't read all of them, and that may sound sort of heartless, but it's because you can often tell right off that somebody doesn't quite know what they're doing, or they haven't put thought into their query letter. And if they haven't put thought into their query letter, then they haven't put thought into their manuscript, you know? And it's not like information about query letters isn't readily available online that you can Google. So if people haven't taken the time to Google, it's a respect thing. You know, if people haven't shown the respect to approach an agent with sort of intelligence and savvy, then why should the agent waste their time, you know? And I would say that, you know, out of the sheer numbers, yes, are stacked against you. It's a fact, because there are so many writers and an agent only has so much time. But there is stuff that you can do to stack the odds more in your favor. And the most encouraging thing I will say is, I'm not a very delicate person, so forgive me if I speak too bluntly. The vast majority, I wouldn't say the vast majority, but a solid chunk of the, yeah, I would say the majority of the query letters I read were gibberish, crazy ramblings, like just weird stuff from, you know, like weird sweaty shut-ins, you know, like I wrote this book because I hate my ex-wife, you know, like weird stuff, you know. And so it wasn't, this is why I didn't read the whole thing. It's like, well, this person is a lunatic and I'm moving on. You know?
We see those people on social media because they're mad because no one's buying their book, and yeah, they feel wrong. So I believe you. I believe you. Yeah.
There's, and if you think that people don't sort of like occasionally pass around something at the agency that is particularly crazy, no, it absolutely happens. I remember one query we got was written, it came through the mail, and it was written in crayon by an adult, and it was for Jurassic Park 3 or 4, but he'd drawn the whole thing out, and he's like, he's like, Steven Spielberg is going to love this when he sees it. And there were like helicopters shooting the dinosaurs. It was kind of awesome, you know, but we passed it around because it's like, this is so strange, you know, the way that people thought, like he really thought like Steven Spielberg just needs to see this and then he will hand me $20 million or whatever. So, so the reason I say that is because it's encouraging. Because I would say that not only 10%, I would say, of the queries that I would read on a daily basis would be conceivably good potential clients for the agent that I was working for. Only 10%, 1 out of 10. So when people hear these stories about 300 queries a day and like the vast flood of queries coming into the industry, it's true, but really only 10% of those are careful and thoughtful queries. And of those, I would usually cut those in half by eliminating, for various reasons, maybe word length, things like that, just because the agent doesn't have time to really go through this stuff. And then, you know, maybe 5% of the ones that I would see every day, I would send on to the agent. And then the agent would say, you know, maybe these 5 or maybe these 3 or whatever. So out of that 300, maybe 1% would get some kind of request, but it wouldn't be a full manuscript request. It would usually be requests for the first 30 or 50 pages. And and the reason for that is it's much easier to reject 30 pages than it is to reject a full manuscript. Like if you get a full manuscript, then it's kind of, agents do have integrity, at least most of them do. And if they get your full manuscript, then they want to do you right. They want to be fair about that. So they're going to want to read the full manuscript, or at least have their assistant read the full manuscript. And so if they're requesting full manuscripts every day, then they're just really increasing their workload beyond anything that any human could possibly do. So there are like rumors, you know, in the writing world that agents are lazy. It's not true. Agents are incredibly overworked. So are editors. They're some of the busiest people I've ever known. And one really important thing to remember is that these are all English majors and book lovers. The reason they work in publishing is because they love books and because they get a real thrill out of finding that book that is sort of struggling in the wilderness, and they bring it out into the light and they show everyone and they make it better, you know, and they massage the book and they doctor it and then they take it to a publisher and it's published and it's a success. And that's their high. Is they love shepherding books to success. And that's how they make their money too. So it's really important to remember that these aren't like cold, heartless people like working in some castle in New York City who are trying to keep you out or keep you down. They're just really overworked. And so you have to do everything you can to sort of like stand out from the crowd. And there are ways to do that, which we will talk about now. I'm going to try to share my screen here. Let's see. My goodness, I have so many tabs open and so many things open on my computer. So I'm part of a group. Hold on just a second. I'm a little congested. I don't know why. So I'm part of the group that I started with 3 other writers, and we're all at the point where we finished really good manuscripts, I think. And so we're querying agents. And so you know how you have a weekly writing group or a monthly writing group, and if you don't, you should. It's really, really important to have a writing group. It's probably the most, aside from like writing regularly, having a writing group is the most important thing you can do as a writer. Because you need someone, and it has to be people who aren't necessarily your friends, although you'll become friends, it's inevitable, but you need someone who'll be bluntly honest, because readers can be pretty ruthless in their mind when they're reading, when they pick that book up from Barnes & Noble. And so you need to be able to catch the sorts of things that those minds will catch, those Goodreads, you know, reviewers will catch before publication. So anyway, I started a group like that, except for query letters. Which we call, the group is called the Thundercats, which is just a name we made up for ourselves. But we are constantly sharing intel. We're sharing like, okay, I just found this agent over, you know, at ICM or whatever, and it looks like she represents, you know, this kind of book, and I think that would be perfect for you. And we are all different kinds of, we have a sort of literary fantasy writer, we have a horror author, we have my close friend who's a former NYPD homicide detective who writes crime novels. I write sort of like speculative crime. and then we have another guy who's just like straight kind of literary that leans into the magical realism realm. So we're all over the map, but we're constantly reading about agents, and so we share that intel with each other. So if any of you are starting to query, I think this is a good idea to start a group where you can share intel, but also workshop your query letters. Show your query letters to each other and be like, what's working, what's not working here. So now I'm going to show you some query letters from this group, and I asked everybody, and they said it was fine. We can just kind of look at what a good query letter looks like. So I'm going to share my screen here. So this is a new query letter. So we changed this first paragraph, as you should, for every agent that you query. So this is my friend Jason, who's the former homicide detective. This is his query. To Scott Miller at Trident. Dear Mr. Miller, given your advocacy of writers like Sean Lynch and Mark Greaney, I believe you may be an ideal fit for my work. I just texted Jason this morning when I saw this, and I was like, dude, you need to really say why these two authors echo your work. What is it specifically about their work? Because just name checking them isn't enough. And he normally does that, so that's why I was surprised that he didn't. And he texted back and said, honestly, like, I forget what he said, but he was like, it's hard when I don't identify as much with, he said, glad you've caught that. I've struggled with that sentiment. For the writers whose work I really love, it comes easier. But for the others, frowny face. And so I was like, well, to me, then that says that you need to investigate why you're querying an agent if you don't really echo with the work that they're representing. And he's like, really, I'm kind of running out of agents. He's queried a lot of agents, but he's also had a lot of success. So he has, I think, eight agents have his manuscript right now. And he's in talks with one of them. And a lot of that success came after we workshopped his query letter. So anyway, moving on. Informed by my 20 years as a detective with the New York City Police Department, The Great Noontide is an exploration of familial obligation, the seismic effects of unchecked rage, and what it means to be a cop in a changing country. The son of an NYPD legend, Detective Owen Barrett's resolve is questioned after he fails to put down an active shooter. Owen's colleagues remind him that his father wouldn't have hesitated. What these officers can't understand is that Owen's dad, a bitter man broken by the violence he investigated and dispensed, is the very reason Owen held his fire. Possible redemption arrives in the form of HSI agent Penton Reese, a brilliant contrarian in need of a partner. Reese discounts terrorism as the cause and warns that more violence is coming. Over 5 days, Owen and Reese pursue 3 more shooters into a labyrinth of dark web conspiracy adherents, devotees of bastardized union philosophies, white nationalist gun runners, and extremist cops. Desperate to unmask the monster at the city's gate and prove to his father that he's no coward, Owen is rocked by the most unexpected revelation of all. The NYPD itself bears responsibility for the shootings. Inspired in part by events involving Frederick Brennan, the real-life founder of 8chan and complete at 95K words, The Great Noontide is a standalone with series potential. It would appeal to readers of Brian Selfont's The Night Workers, Robert Poby's City of Windows, and Richard Price's The Whites. I'm grateful for your consideration. So you can see a kind of template here. This first part is obviously an introduction. One thing that I noticed that I always thought, people do it constantly, but I always thought it was kind of weird when I was working in publishing, that people just launch into their query. It's like, hello, Agent X. Sally was sad. And it's like, who's Sally? Where are we? Like, what? Say hello, introduce yourself. You know, like, you want to be quick about it, but you also want to like say why you've chosen that agent. Agents are people. They also, like most people, are proud of their work. They're proud of they're proud of what they do, and they want to be sort of like recognized. It feels good to them, you know. And also, you want to show that you did your homework. You want to show that you understand who is on their list, who they represent, what kind of books that they're interested in. You can find this information on Publishers Marketplace. I would suggest that anyone who is looking for an agent buy a Publishers Marketplace membership. It's $25 a month. This guy, Jason, and I share one, and I use his login. Don't tell. It's $25 a month, but really like we split it. And so, $12 a month is basically like a Netflix, membership, and you can get so much information about agents there. Let's talk about that for a second. And I hope I'm not rambling too much, but a really good way to find an agent that would be a good potential agent for you. There are different ways to do that. One way to do it is to find what are called comp titles, which are books that are similar to the book that you've written, and look on the acknowledgement page or Google that author and see who represents them. That's a really easy, simple way to figure out. I mean, if you love a book and you've written a book that's similar, then that agent already is kind of vibing with the work that you have written. So then you already have your first paragraph, which is like, Dear Agent X, like I'm a huge fan of this author that you represent, and my book that I've just finished is very similar, and I think you'd like it. And you should talk like that. You should talk in a conversational way. This is not a cover letter. You are not applying for a job. You should use contractions. Don't say it is and I am. Say it's and I'm. Like, this should feel like you're at coffee with them, and that you are easy and professional and free speaking, and that you have a bit of confidence and good humor. The more stiff it feels, the more nobody wants to work with somebody who's sort of stiff and unfeeling. And that brings up another really important point, which is that this is maybe one of the most important things that I'll say. Agents do not represent books. Agents represent careers. Agents represent authors. And so even though you're pitching a book, what you're really pitching is yourself as a client. Agents are extremely busy, as I mentioned, and they need to know, above all, that you are a professional, that you're not super needy, that you're not crazy, that you're not, that you're a professional, that you're easygoing, that you might be fun to talk to, that you're a cool person. Like, because often this is going to be someone that you're talking to on a regular basis for 20 or 30 years sometimes, So they need to know that you're cool, so be cool. And the way you do that is, like I said, try to be conversational. Introduce yourself. Say, hey, I'm a huge fan of these authors that you represent. That will bring pride. They're like, yeah, I love these authors. There's a reason that I chose them, And then, you launch into this second paragraph here. What I really like to do is I think it's important to start with what's called the elevator pitch. I'm sure you all know what an elevator pitch is, but it's a short kind of overall global statement about the book, putting it in context. Like, what kind of book is it? Like, often I think people make the mistake of just launching into a sort of synopsis of the plot. And I think that does a disservice, because you have to remember that agents read so many queries. They get very tired of being thrust into world after world after world every time they open one of these things, So take a little time to go, okay, let me set the scene for you. Let me explain to you like where you are, what kind of book this is, and what it's about, and then go into the synopsis. So he says, informed by my 20 years as a detective. So this is a very good thing to start with. This is his biggest selling point, is that he was a detective for the NYC Police Department. So this goes back to what I was saying before about agents represent authors, not books. So what he's saying is, look, I've already got credentials. You can put me in front of people. I'll know what I'm talking about. I've worked in a professional setting for 20 years. Before he starts talking about the book, he kind of leads with the thing that is his biggest selling point. So whatever your biggest selling point is, it may be the book, it may be if you think it's an MFA, it's not an MFA. Everyone has not everyone has an MFA, but they're common enough that that's something that you'll want to put down here in the last paragraph. But if you have something that is unique about you, that could be a really good selling point, try to put that as close to the top as you can and fold it into the elevator pitch in this way. So he mentions up top that he's a former cop. Then he says, The Great Noon Tide is an exploration of familial obligation, the seismic effects of unchecked rage, and what it means to be a cop in a changing country. This is really good because it sounds to me like flat copy, like back ed copy. This sounds like what you would read if you picked up the book in the store. Why is that important? Because an agent needs to be able to picture a book in the real world, in a bookstore setting. So that's why this really works for me, is the agent is already able to go, oh, I could see myself reading this on the back of the book, you know? And so then it goes on with the actual, you know, sort of synopsis of the plot. I really like this part down here. Desperate to unmask the monster at the city's gate and prove to his father that he's no coward, Owen is rocked by the most unexpected revelation of all. The NYPD itself bears responsibility for the shootings. So this is great because it shows how high the stakes are. And it gives a hint that there are surprises in store, but it doesn't totally give them away. Agents don't expect you to give away the entire plot. They don't want to know the ending. Like, they are going to request the manuscript if the book sounds good. So you just want to give them enough to like go, oh, that sounds good. And then they'll request the manuscript. And then all the surprises you have in store for them will be revealed. So this is not a point-by-point, blow-by-blow plot synopsis. It really is just enough. You do want to think of it as what you would read on the back of a paperback. And then this final part here, this is a good thing a good place to put, complete at 95,000 words, especially if your book is, say, 125,000 words. And you're not a fantasy author. If you're a fantasy author, 125K is fine. Fantasy people read insanely long books, as we all know, and God love them for it. If you're a romance author and your book is 125K, well, you might have bigger issues. You need to cut down your manuscript, I would say, because I would say 85,000 words is a better length for a manuscript, a romance manuscript, or a crime manuscript for that matter. Anything under 120 is really probably fine. Although for romance, romance readers, as you know, I know some romance readers who read 2 or 3 books in a day, and they like the shorter ones. You know, they can fly through them. So anyway, that was just kind of a sidebar, but I would say agents and assistants are always looking for reasons to reject a book because of their insane workload. And word count is just another reason. So that's why I think putting the word count down near the bottom is probably a better idea, because give them a chance to be a little bit hooked before they see something that could easily make them. But his manuscript is 95,000 words, which is, there's nothing rejectable about 95,000 words. It's a perfectly good and reasonable. And it could be on the short side too. It's not just a problem to have it be too long. If you say complete at 55,000 words and you're not a middle grade author, then you need to write some more in your manuscript. You're going to have a real hard time selling a 55,000 word crime novel. It makes you look sort of, they're going to think, is this a lazy person? Does he not want to finish things? These are they wouldn't say that, but that's maybe what they're thinking. So it's a common mistake. While I'm on that subject, other common mistakes, people will often forget that agents are looking for authors and not books. And so they will say stuff like, I've been looking for an agent for this book for 10 years. I would see that really often. And I would always think, well, you could have written 10 books in 10 years. What are you doing? Why are you so focused on this one book? And they'll say, in their query, This book has been my life, is my baby and my lifelong passion. An agent can if an agent wastes, I don't want to say waste, but if an agent spends a lot of time selling one book and that's the only book you have, what's in it for them? You know, because first books very rarely make any money. It's the 10th book that makes the money. And then the backlist starts to sell too. And that's when the agent starts to see money coming in because they're getting 15% of all of your sales. And that's why they're in the game, for that 15% of your sales. And so they don't have any interest in selling one book and then being done with you. That's not a good deal for them. And it's a very common mistake that I used to see all the time. So I'm going to move on. It's 11:40, so I want to save some time for some questions at the end. So I wanted to show you a sort of rough draft of a member of our group's query letter, and then how we cleaned it up in the sort of final version. So, dear Agent X, this is the rough draft. When Satya sneaks into a closed trekking valley, he must grapple with perception and deteriorating conditions to survive. At this elevation, 75,000 words, is upmarket horror with a speculative twist. Given your interest in authors X and Y, I think we might be a match. The story, when Satya sneaks into and I'll skip over this, but there's a story here, and it's well written. And then about me, my short stories and flash fiction have appeared in the Arcanist, Luna Station Quarterly, Pip Magazine, Ghost Parachute, and Haunted Waters Press. I'm currently finishing my master's in creative writing and literature at the Harvard University Extension School, and throughout my novel manuscripts, I draw from both research and firsthand experience. In the case of At This Elevation, I've completed the trek to Everest Base Camp twice, once in high season and once during monsoon. Many thanks in advance for your time and consideration. Now, when I first saw this one, I had never seen somebody really, maybe a few times, but break it up into the story and about me. It doesn't work for me. I understand the instinct to sort of like make things easier on the eyes and to break things into like bite-sized chunks. But I think that anything that you do to stand out from the crowd too much is going to hurt you. If you're going to stand out in the crowd, do it within the context of a professional standard query letter. Don't use crazy fonts. Don't drop photographs in there. Don't make your query all colorful and put rainbows and glitter and stuff. Don't do any of that. Times New Roman 12-point font, and you're on your way. And just use a standard format and let the book itself, like write a book that stands out from others. That's what you want to do. And then sell that book or pitch that book in a good way, rather than trying to use like formatting and stuff like that to try to stand apart. So here's what we did as a group after workshopping with this query. Dear Agent X, given your interest in both horror and fantasy and your representation of authors like blank and blank, I believe you might be interested in my fantasy horror novel, At This Elevation. When Satya sneaks into a closed trekking valley, he must grapple with deteriorating conditions, both interpersonal and physical, to survive. Completed 76,000 words, At This Elevation is comparable to The Shining set in Nepal. It's horror with a speculative twist, where supernatural forces, the elements, and human fallibility compound one another. I'll skip the synopsis and go down to the bottom. I am a writer located in the northeastern United States, where my life is a cultural mashup of Nepal and Pennsylvania Dutch. I'm currently finishing my master's in creative writing and literature, and throughout my novel manuscripts, I draw from both research and firsthand experience. In the case of At This Elevation, I've completed the trek to Everest Base Camp twice, once in high season and once during the monsoon. So after she started sending out this newer version, she got such a more positive response from agents. I don't remember how many manuscript requests she had, but it was significantly more than that other version, which she had been sending out before she joined our group. And I hope that you can see why. It just flows so much more. It's all of a piece. It looks very thoughtful and put together. And I think the most important thing here is this. At this elevation is comparable to the shining set in Nepal. That's such a brilliant, quick encapsulation of what this book is. And if you can pitch your book in a few words like that, do it somewhere in the query. Preferably at the top, although I can show you my query, which is in this document. I won't read it all because I feel like time is running late, but this is my query to Dan Conaway at Writer's House. So you can see that I did the same thing that Jason did, where I said, informed by my years as a public radio reporter on the high plains of West Texas, Gone River is a neo-noir chronicle of a dying world, an exploitation of divided loyalties and shifting faiths beneath the relentless West Texas sun. So that's an elevator pitch, you know, and then it sort of goes into the plot itself. And down here, completed 115,000 words. Gone River is a standalone with serious potential. Blade Runner meets Hell or High Water. So you can see I did that right there. And in full honesty, my book isn't totally Blade Runner meets Hell or High Water. Like, there's not that much. The only similarity to Blade Runner really is the noir kind of detective-y vibe. But it doesn't matter. You're just trying to get them to request the manuscript. Like, just try to be close, but really you're trying to hook them. So stuff like that really is a good hook. So I think I'll stop there because I've really been rambling for 45 minutes straight, and I want to be able to answer any kind of questions y'all have. We can also talk about the publishing side if any of you have agents already, and you are wondering about the process of an agent sending manuscript out, or if you're wondering what it looks like after you get an agent. Any of these things I'm happy to answer because I've seen all of it. So let me know if there are any questions.
Well, it was fascinating rambling. So rambling is good.
Well, thanks.
I do have a question. I am self-published, and you talked about, well, anyway, so on the advice of your aunt, she had advised me a couple of years ago that I should, and I've been really happy with self-publishing, but I also have some experience with traditional publishing before I went with the self-publishing. And so I have a little bit of experience there, but she advised that I do 2 different series, and one that I would traditionally publish and one that I would keep self-published. And so from an agent's perspective, like, what do you think of that? How do you think agents see that divide? If they're representing me as an author, and then knowing that my time is going to be divided between 2 different series, and they're only going to be representing one.
I think that my aunt is very smart, and she's been doing this for a long time. She's published 50 novels, so I don't think she's wrong. I would say that the really good thing about this that you're showing is hustle. Mm-hmm. Like, so many authors just don't have that factor. They don't have the hustle factor. They don't have the work ethic. Talent is virtually meaningless in the writing world, because we all have been to Barnes and Noble and bought a book, and we're like, this person doesn't have much talent, but they have hustle, and that matters more. So if you were to say that to an agent, like, I have a series that I'm self-publishing, and I also have a series that I want to traditionally publish, I think that the agent would probably be like, well, we can talk about this, you know, like, and if you're set on it, then that's probably okay. But what you're saying is, I write so much that I produce enough content to do both, and that is never a bad thing. You know, if you can produce a novel a year is enough, really. And if you're producing more than a novel a year, it really depends what genre. If you're a literary author, you can get away with publishing a book every 8 years or something, you know, these people. But if you're a romance author, you know, my Aunt Jody is publishing 2 or 3 books a year, and she's in her 70s. So, but they're short, and she's got it down. She doesn't plot. She just sits down and just kind of like pantses these things out. So it kind of depends what genre you're in, but I would say that you should probably, if you're in any kind of genre that isn't literary, you need to be able to probably push out a book a year. And you should be able to say that. Like, I've been writing a book a year for the last 10 years or whatever. Like, showing that you're a workhorse. I've had more than one agent tell me, I would rather have a workhorse than an award winner. I would rather have someone who pumps out a book or 2 a year than, a National Book Award winner, which that's probably not true. They'd probably rather have the National Book Award winner. But still, like, one thing agents get really frustrated with is people missing deadlines, people having to call them, where's your manuscript? The publisher's waiting for it. They don't have time for that stuff. Yeah. So the more that you can show up front that I'm not that person, then that is a mark in your favor. And I think saying something like that, like, look how much I write, that's always going to be something in your favor. And I think they'll get it. And if you can profitably do that, then that's fine. But they might also say, like, well, let's look at this, because it has happened that self-published books have been brought out again by traditional publishers, and successfully so, So they might want to do that, or at least look at that. But I don't think it hurts you.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hey, so just because I don't want to assume anything, so is this being sent to them in the body of an email, as a Word document, as a PDF? And if it's an email, can you talk about appropriate email subject lines?
Yeah. So first of all, yeah, it is sent in the body of an email. It's important. Every agent is different about what they request. There are even some agents who still just want manuscripts and queries to be sent through the mail, although they're very rare, very old school. Almost every agent, I would say 99% of them these days, want email queries. And yeah, it's not a PDF. It's just an email. You just I keep it in a Word document, and I have a sort of template for that first paragraph, which I change for every agent. And then you just paste it into the email. And then usually an agent will want to see the first, say, 3 pages of the manuscript, which you will also paste in to the bottom of the email after the query letter. Sometimes they want 5 pages, sometimes they want 10 pages, but they want to be able to look and see, like, how the thing starts. That's why, like they always say, like, the first paragraph, the first page is the most important part of the book. In this case, it really is, because they're judging the entire book over something they're glancing at for maybe 10 seconds, So you want to be able to, like, really go in gangbusters, especially if you're a crime writer, genre writer like I am. So the way that you find out what they want is through Google, also through Publishers Marketplace. Every agent has a page, and but usually on their website, like on the, I was going to say William Morris, but William Morris agents are hard to, whatever agency it is, they will have querying guidelines on their website, and they differ from agent to agent. And it's important to get that right. It's important to show, like, hey, I actually did my research and I looked at your website and I'm sending it in the way that you requested, What you want to do is make sure you get their name right. Call them Miss. It's usually, call them like Miss, Harkins or whatever. Don't say Dear Deborah. Like, be professional. And I will also say, if you can find a back door in, it's so much better. Whatever it is, Hail Mary passes. Like, this is why Twitter is good. I know some people hate Twitter. I'm one of them. I have like 4 followers. I suck at Twitter. I shut mine down for like 3 months last year. And then when I plugged back on, it had been deleted. And I'm terrible at Twitter. But Twitter is great for this. remember earlier when I was talking about that book that you love that is similar to the one you've just finished, befriend that author, you know, like tweet at them sometimes. Tweet like, I just finished this book. I cannot wait for the next in the series to come out. I'm such a huge fan. Especially like if you can do a video review, those people will watch those and authors will watch them. And you can post those on Amazon, like in the review comments, and they will be given preferential treatment. They'll be put at the top. And then the author is very likely to see it. And start off that review by saying, hi, my name is Jan Lloyd, and I'm the author of X, Y, and Z, and I just finished this, and I love it, and I wanted to tell you why. That's a real good way to get an author's attention and to get on their good side. And then slide up into their DMs, you know, like message them on Twitter and say, you know, if they follow you back or whatever, and say, hey, I just wanted to say I'm such a huge fan. See if you can start that conversation. And then if you can, and they're nice, say, I know that you're represented by, you know, Agent X. I'm wondering if you could offer any advice on how to approach them. And if you're lucky, they'll say, you know what, let me shoot my agent an email on your behalf. Send me your manuscript. Let me have a look. And, you know, this is how things really start to happen. You know, that isn't to say that people don't find agents through traditional querying, because it happens every day. Twilight came in over the transom at Writer's House, and the agent, the intern who pulled Twilight out, now lives in Alaska, but she's paid by Writer's House to just read query letters and just because she made Writer's House so much money through Twilight from pulling that one out of the slush pile. So that happens. It happens all the time. But with that said, see if you can do yourself some favors by like building relationships with other authors and figuring out a way sort of into the back door of the industry rather than just attacking from the front. As many angles as you can attack from, that's how many you want to be, you know, approaching. And if you're doing that, if you're trying to find different angles at, you know, 10 different agents, then you're really starting to increase the chances, you know.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to ask about conferences. I've been to a few where there's agents there and you get an appointment, you get to talk to them. Is that a good way to do it? Or are you just one of a million faces they see in that day?
No, it's not a bad way. That's another way that people find agents. I think an important thing to remember, like everything else, is agents are super busy. They're often at these conferences because they're being paid and they get a free vacation. They are just looking forward to going to the bar and getting a Negroni and like unwinding and being away from Manhattan for the weekend. And so again, you have to really stand out from the crowd. You have to like show that you're not wasting their time. So a few tips for pitching in person: definitely be polite, be really friendly. I know you're going to be nervous. You only have 3 minutes. It's like speed dating. You're like, yeah. So that's why you want to come prepared with your elevator pitch. And this is why it's really good to start that group and be like, okay, here's my elevator pitch. Like there are templates. There's an agent named Paula Munier, Munier. As an agent, she's okay. As a person who sort of teaches how to get agents, she's pretty good. And she has a template for how to write elevator pitches, and then you can find it online.
Right.
But you want to be able to pitch your book quickly, and you want to try to be calm and friendly and look professional. Don't be drunk.
Oh man.
Don't curse. Yeah, I know. Or maybe be a little drunk if it makes you like more relaxed. Keep it simple. Don't ramble, because you want to leave time for them to ask you questions. And when they do ask you questions, don't be defensive. Show that you're open to criticism, because again, agents handle careers. And if you look like someone who can't handle criticism, who gets defensive, or who has, those writers who are like, I wasn't sure about this part. And then they start explaining why it works instead of going, okay, I'll take that into consideration. Like, that's a red flag. Like, authors or agents don't want to have to argue with you all the time whenever they have an issue with your writing. So there are other mistakes people make. Don't appeal to emotions. Like, don't be like, I really need this, my mortgage is coming due, and they don't care. Like, this is a business. Like, is the book good or no? Are you a good writer or no?
Don't be desperate.
Also, don't be desperate. And also, people say all the time in their query letters, I love to write. I knew I wanted to be a writer when I was in kindergarten, whatever. Like, it's great, but honestly, agents see it constantly. Like, of course you love to write. You wrote an entire book. It takes a long time. If you didn't love to write, you wouldn't be getting in touch with me. So I love to write does not set you apart from the crowd. And that goes for query letters, but it also goes for pitching in person. Like, I've always felt like this was my destiny, stuff like that. Like, is the book good or no? Are you a good writer or not?
And are you going to be easygoing?
Something doesn't automatically mean you should be paid for it, Like, I love chess, but nobody's going to pay me to play chess. I'm terrible at it.
Are there certain conferences that you think would be, are better than others to find an agent, or is it more just exposure and making a good impression?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that there aren't better or worse. I mean, there probably are better or worse conferences, but like here in Maine, we have a very small writing conference every year that's for crime writers. It's called Crime Wave, but we have really legitimate agents that come to it every year, and they like toddle their way up here to like Maine, and a couple of years ago when I was in West Texas, I got some really legitimate agents to come to my aunt's writing conference and at WT, and they flew out from New York City to Canyon, Texas, and so
I was there.
It happens. Yeah. So you never know. But with that said, a bigger conference in Dallas is going to have more agents, and more agents just increases the likelihood of success. 3 agents versus 30 is, there's a big difference there. So, but with that said, I think you can have just as much success from your laptop. Conferences are good because you get to hang out with other writers, you can learn stuff, but they're also like, don't go to a ton of conferences hoping to find an agent. 1 or 2 a year can be fun, but these people who like go to like every conference and they're at a different conference every week, and it's like, when are you writing?
Exactly.
I think you are more interested in saying you're a writer and hanging out with other writers than actually writing, and you can fall into that trap too.
Yeah, I called that groupies.
Yeah. And agents can recognize that, so. Any other questions?
Lance, do you have a question?
Yeah, I do. When you were talking about your letter and your pitch and everything, you mentioned not to put the twists, turns, plot points, and stuff like that. I've been told and again, like, comic books aren't real books and blah, blah, blah. But editors over there, they're like, hey, we're not the readers. We're trying to get your book in the right place. So we need to know, if it turns out that the father's the killer, we need to know that going into it. I guess, was that different in book? Like, you not put your big twist in your pitch and stuff? Since you said there's no career in the book.
I wouldn't say, I didn't mean to imply that you should never like put any of the twists and turns in your query letter. It's tricky. It depends on the twist, I think. I think you should put some of them in, but I think that there are ways to tease the twist. Like my friend Jason put the actual twist in the end. Like in the end, he finds out that the NYPD itself is responsible for these killings, but he doesn't say how or why. He just says enough that you kind of realize what the twist is going to be. If I was Gillian Flynn and I was querying Gone Girl, I don't know how I would do it, honestly, because how do you query that book without saying the twist? I think that you have to, and I won't give away the twist if you're the one person who hasn't read Gone Girl, but but that twist is the book, that twist is the book. And and also the book is a masterpiece of crime writing. It's the greatest crime novel of the 21st century, but so there's a lot more going for it, but really the twist is the thing that people talk about, and that's the thing that sells that book. So I think that if it's the thing that sells the book, then you have to put it in there. But this gets into a larger conversation about twists in general. Like, twists have to be organic. They have to fit the larger narrative. If you're just writing for the twist, then your book may not have enough going for it. I don't mean you, Lance, but I mean in general. Sometimes people are I thought of this great twist, and it's if you're writing around a twist, you may be falling into a trap. Because the people read books for a plot as a whole. And a twist, the reason that twist in Gone Girl works so well is because the characters are so rich and the plot in general is so tight that twist really is just the final cherry on top. But it's such a beautiful cherry, delicious cherry. So yeah, that's a really tricky one. And I don't know the comic book world, although I do believe comic books are books, and I love comic books. So, but I've never pitched a graphic novel or a comic book, and I don't know that world, and it could be different. And I don't know the readership as well or anything like that. But I would say if you have a great twist that's really going in your favor, yeah, put it in there. What I was sort of advising against is blow by blow, plot by plot point summaries that get really boring because agents have to read so many of these things. They don't need to know everything that happens in the book,
Cool, thank you. Yeah, it was that makes a lot more sense. I was just because I don't like twists for the sake of twist, like Gone Girl. That's why M. Night Shyamalan, he got away with it once or twice, and now you just expect it and it's not a twist. But yeah, like Gone Girl, Fight Club, things like that.
He started writing around the twist. He's I'm the twist guy, so I've got to come up with the twist, and then he would try to reverse engineer a book or a movie around a twist. And it doesn't work. It was terrible. Some of those movies are just punishing. And then later he started going, okay, what about character? What about setting and stuff like that? And some of those movies turned out to be pretty good. So yeah. I think that's it. We're past noon now. I really appreciate y'all hanging with me. Well,
it was fascinating. We appreciate you coming. We know you're very busy, and we really appreciate your insight into the business.
Well, it's my pleasure, and I whenever I can talk to West Texas folks, especially writers, I consider y'all my tribe, even though I'm all the way up here in the icy, frosty tip of New England. But I still, I'm still a West Texan at heart, and I grew up around West Texas writers, and so I love y'all, I miss y'all, and I root for your success every day. I think that the biggest problem that happens in West Texas is isolation among creative people. So it's great that y'all have a community, because I just don't see the kind of support in West Texas, because everybody's out in the middle of nowhere, and it's just kind of how our brains are. And so if you go to Austin or Dallas, you see these really tight knit groups, and that's very hard to facilitate in West Texas. And I always I tried to do it while I was in West Texas so much and had some success, but not a lot, just because people are kind of off doing their own thing. But community, it's everything. Excuse me. In any kind of art form, you have to, especially if you're out in the middle of nowhere. I think the other problem, this is the last thing I'll say, but if you're in Austin, you can see someone from your neighborhood giving a book reading, or become successful, and you can talk to them and how did you do that, there are very few successful writers in West Texas who make a living at it. And a lot of them tend to, my Aunt Jody is an exception, but a lot of them tend to like kind of isolate themselves or not help the people coming up behind them. And it's not cool, you know, like we rural people and West Texas people really need to see how it happens. We need to be able to go, hey, how did you do that? How did you get your agent? How did you get your publishing contract? What's hard about it? What, like, how did you set your life up so that you like are successful at this? And so the more that you find success, don't forget to help the people coming up behind you, you know, because people forget too much, and it's really hard for people out in West Texas who don't have much help.
Thank you,
anyway,
John.
thank you. And it's good to see all of you, and happy writing, and good luck to all of you. And I look forward to seeing you all on the New York Times bestseller list.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. Absolutely. Thank y'all so much. Well, again, I hope to see you guys in June. I'm looking forward to it. We have exciting things coming up. That's going to be a fun and interesting event. And we'll be putting this recording up on YouTube soon. So if you're like me and you scribbled messy notes and you need to go back and watch it again, then you will have that opportunity. But thank you guys all so much for coming and for all the work you're doing for the group. And I wish you the very best of most productive writing days and creative days. And I look forward to seeing you guys again next month. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Thank you all for
Great
putting this
meeting.
together.
It was great.
For those that applied to, happy Mother's Day.
Yeah.
Thank you. Happy Mother's Day.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.